I need to talk to you about teachers. And this is really important. The backbone of a country is built on its citizens. Billionaires are billionaires because of the citizens they take advantage of to build that wealth. At least to a certain point that they can invest in the stock market and basically control the stock market through what they invest in or remove their money in, which is a common tactic that's supposed to be illegal but still happens. But I digress. Teaching, education, forms the backbone of students. It teaches them how to behave and what they need to know in order to do well. Unfortunately, there are some problems with education in most countries. First of all, is that very thing that I just said. It teaches students in most countries, including the US, how to do well in education. It does not adequately prepare students for the real world, personal, romantic, or business, not much less the possibility of investing and being an entrepreneur. That is something that you basically never see taught in most schools, in most countries. Now, granted, not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody is cut out to do financial investing. Some people just don't have the savvy and they need to hire out somebody else to do finances for them. And that's okay. But still, that information is critical. But what if even those things were included in the curriculum? If the country, I'll use the US because that's where I live now, if the country were using the best possible curriculum that actually not just prepares students for the next grade or the next or going into university, but actually got them ready to be at their peak level of proficiency and ready to either work a job or start their own business. What would stop that from being optimal? Well, aside from the students, obviously, and the families, because there's a lot of dysfunction in some households, the biggest factor other than that would be the teachers. If the teachers are given the best curriculum in the world, but they are not competent, they are not diligent enough, they are not devoted enough, and they are not given the tools they need to give that stuff all to the students, then the consequences are going to be subpar. The optimization of students to become great citizens so that the country can shine as a whole, and not just because of outliers who are exceptions to the rule. Okay? America, we've got a fair number of exceptions to the rule. People who do not truly represent America, like Bezos and Zuckerberg and these other super rich people. Gates. They don't represent America. They represent one kind of person, but they don't represent the culmination of the educational experience. They don't represent what is normally possible from education. Those people were already exceptional people despite the education that they got. Now, I'm going to bring this home for you. For decades, literally decades, I have been hearing about teachers who are bad. Teachers who sit in the classroom and don't teach. I've seen a couple of those. I had a substitute teacher that came in, plumped himself down in his seat, pulled out a book, and just ignored us for the whole class. He was a sub, so I guess he felt he could get away with it. And he was only there for one day. So maybe somebody complained. I don't know. But all these decades of my life, even before I became an adult, I've been hearing about bad teachers. Teachers who physically abuse their students. Teachers who emotionally abuse their students. Teachers who verbally abuse their students. Teachers who sexually abuse their students. Teachers who don't do their job well. Teachers who are reprimanded regularly but nothing more's happened. Teachers who are pedophiles and routine abusers who are transferred from school to school to school to school because the union prevents them from being let go. This is ridiculous. Now, I know we're at a stage right now because of the pandemic scare, which I'm not even going to, don't even let me start on that one. There are a lot of teachers who fled education because they were afraid of either the illness or the vaccination or both. Some of them left on principle. They didn't want to teach anymore just because they felt it was wrong as a teacher to be asked to get the vaccination. Now, I can understand that viewpoint, but I don't personally, as a former teacher, agree with it because of the fact that when you're in a high-profile situation like education and health, you can actually become a vector of transmission of disease. So by refusing to be vaccinated, you can potentially cause a lot of people to become ill. And it's like a ripple. But I digress. That's not what this is about. So I'm going to give you two examples. I was just speaking to a friend of mine who is a teacher in the Milwaukee public school system. She told me that she had observed a third grade teacher who she was co-teaching with at that time, and that this teacher would go to students who were being, I don't know, disruptive maybe. She would go behind the student and she would kick the student in the back. Now, how could this be? Well, if you think about it, student chairs in primary often have a hole in the back support. So the teacher would aim her shoe at that hole and kick the student, which would most likely be the spine. Now, I don't know how hard this teacher was doing this, but my friend was very disturbed by it and went to the principal and said, "Hey, I saw her kicking students." And the teacher said, "Yeah, she gets suspended every year for it." "What? Every year?" "Yeah, I'm going to put it in a report right now, and she'll get a 10-day suspension at the end of the year." And that was it. A repeat offender, who they know is a repeat offender, and all they do is suspend her for 10 days every year. And she continues to abuse children. This is not acceptable. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one comes from my own daughter's school. She had been quarantined because of the virus, and she just went back to school today and discovered, well, let me back up a step. A while back, she came home and told me, "Oh, do you know this teacher who is teaching government for me? Well, he's being swapped out with a different teacher." And I said, "Well, why?" She said, "I don't know." So when she went to school today, apparently she found out what happened while she was gone and why her teacher had been swapped out with this other person. So apparently this new teacher had been kind of, hip. He was trying to fit in with the young kids and stuff like that and stuff like that. And for the first week he was okay. Although my daughter, she got a bad vibe from him, but she gets a bad vibe from most males, and she has social anxiety, so it doesn't, it's not easy for her to tell when it's a legitimate bad vibe and when it's just her own personal issues. But apparently while he had been at the previous school that he had been transferred from, he had pushed a student into a wall. And apparently he was also known for being verbally abusive towards students. And apparently while my daughter was out being quarantined, he was doing the same thing at my daughter's school, which resulted in him being suspended. Now let me ask you this, parents. Now I know in some places and in some countries, corporal punishment in school is allowed. I also know that in some places the rules are so restrictive and one-sided that teachers who are legitimately trying to help a student or trying to stop a fight or something like that still get punished, although they were not doing anything wrong. But if you are a parent and your student is being kicked in the spine by a teacher, or your student is being pushed into walls and yelled at by teachers. Do you feel that this is a healthy situation? Do you feel that that student should be suspended and then transferred to another school? Do you feel, perhaps, instead, that the unions that continue to represent and protect offenders who are in the school systems should be forced to cut ties with teachers who are violating student rights, who are violating laws, and violating their contracts? I do. My dad was a teacher. I've done teaching. I know people who are teachers. I'm also a parent, and I am thoroughly opposed to the continued protection of abusers and drug sellers and pedophiles and other criminals by unions. I'm thoroughly disgusted by it, and I hope that you'll stand with me in demanding that finally, after so many decades, that school systems around the country make a change. And this also applies to principals. There are principals out there who support students who lie, who support students who are abusive, and teachers who are abusive. There are those principals who enable those kind of people. They put down victims. They put the blame on the victims. So please join me and let's make our educational system in this country one that we can be proud of and one that will help make America truly shine. Not like a MAGA kind of shine, but a real shine from the bottom up for everyone. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.